Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and I got some good news! The build is finally on and it's complete, and I have the massive Billy upgrade rig finally video. The video is all set to go, alright? I'm basically just editing it together because it is more of like a big massive tutorial than it is just a showcase. You know, I can't talk about building a computer without showing every step of the way in terms of software. It gets very annoying, and I know it gets kind of boring, but a couple weeks ago, I made a video where I talked about a graphic card that I was waiting months for, alright, if not a year for, really, died. All right, literally died. Now, to understand, graphics cards, okay, all right, I'm sorry, I keep like mixing it up. I know people always call out my plurals, okay, I got like weird linguistic problems. But to understand, when I buy a graphics card, like a NVIDIA or an AMD one, it's not often, that I do. But usually, I've had pretty good experiences purchasing NVIDIA cards. I've never really had an issue buying an NVIDIA graphics card and coming across issues like I did with the AMD one. So a couple of weeks ago when I bought the 6900 XT, it pretty much was a dud card on arrival. I basically put it into the system, I basically tested as much as I can out of it, and it came across to have some serious issues. Issues that I've never noticed in gaming before. When I played Halo Infinite, I noticed that my actual ground, all the reflective properties, were giving me green lights, okay? It was almost like aliens were attacking my system. I saw other people on the internet with similar issues in games like Forza Horizon. And then I realized when I started playing games like Deus Ex Invisible War, a game older than some of you even alive right now, had some issues. In fact, it straight up black screen crashed on me. Then I started stress testing the card, and around 15 seconds into it, it died no matter what. This card could be colder than vanilla ice, and it would still actually keep crashing, alright? It was annoying, it was pissing me off. A card that I spent well over $2,000 for, retail in a store, which by the way, I've learned that even retail stores are coming across to be very scalpy, because even if you find this in a store, alright, chances are you're getting price gouged just a little bit. Now, I want to just guide you through the magical world of trying to purchase a graphic card at any point in time, alright, during an actual global supply chain crisis. This is AMD's website. Performance to rule your game. You go to AMD.com availability, and the site, it's broken. Want to know what the old-fashioned MSRP is? This is $1,800. Now, why is this $1,000 and this is $1,800? Like, visibly, there's no difference. It's the same model. It's like, does this one blow you and this one doesn't? You click on this website, it's like, hey, you can get it for $1,000 from AMD. Canada Computer's about to fist you for $1,800. Memory Express a little bit more, and Newegg is just finding a way to diddle you somehow. Yeah, we're reaching a point where like the store is the scalper, not AMD. The store is the scalper. Okay, stop it. I'm sure if you had tons of time to sit down and refresh the page at exactly the same minute that these sites launch the cards, you might succeed. I, unfortunately, either don't have that time, and even if I do, it's very difficult for me to beat a bot, okay? Unless I start programming bots and becoming one with the devil, unless I sign a deal with the devil, we ain't making it happen. So I got lucky, and I went back to the same computer store, and I found this one card sitting around, the goddamn AMD 6900 XT. Now, initially I was going to make a video on this earlier, but I didn't because I wanted to make sure I wasn't getting fisted in the ass twice. Because it's bad enough when you get a little finger stuck up there without thinking. It's bad enough when it happens again. So to understand, I had a VRAM issue last time. It wasn't an issue with the card, really. It was just the VRAM on it was junk. And the only way that you really identify if VRAM is junk is when you stick this thing into your system and basically you make sure it's in the most optimal conditions. Proper spacing, proper temperatures. It's literally the only card in the system and it's paired really well with the CPU. And if you still are actually having issues rendering things and the videos that you record start to have flies appearing on it, digital artifacting, the VRAM is dying. In fact, it won't just die quickly, it'll die very slowly. So that card is basically sitting there junked at this point. There's really no way to fix that as far as I know. So when I got this one, I put it into the system, and finally I can say without a shadow of a doubt, this thing works like God intended. Running into it, I didn't actually have an issue going through. Now you might be wondering, Muto, why did you look for this card in specific? Inside the system, I actually have a 3090, and I'm pairing it with an exact equivalent, which is what the 6900 XT is. This is apparently AMD's version of an RTX 3090 from their side. It's not exactly as fast as a 3090, it's kind of somewhere in the middle of a 3080 and a 3090. I mean, just as a quick thing, it's got ray tracers in it too, but I actually would not recommend doing that, because while it does have ray tracing, I mean, AMD calls it that. Actually running these games is quite laggy. It's not a perfect experience. If you're down with playing it at 30 frames, that's cool. But there are some technologies like lossless scaling that allow you to use AMD's version of FSR, which is like their DLSS, and sharpen the image that way. None of it is really ideal, and if you were to game, I'd rather just pick the actual NVIDIA side. But I needed this for things like Mac OS stuff, for Hackintoshing, and generally for some of the AMD stuff. It's always fun to play around with the different technologies in a lot of these cards. Now, initially, when I made that one video, people were wondering, Muto, why don't you just go directly to AMD and get them to sponsor something? And I generally would not do that, for one big reason. Because I think it's unfair, all right? In a market like now, where GPUs are scarcer than ever, basically jumping in front of line just because I have some clout on the internet is simply not fair to the rest of the people in the PC gaming circuit. And usually when you are getting something for free, you're paying for it in something else. If any sponsor gives you a card, chances are they probably want to be plugged really hard, especially for how much that thing costs. But also, if I got this card from a closer source, maybe even a board partner, chances are I probably have to talk even better about it, even if the card's not exactly the best. See, I can criticize that card because I paid the price, because I had the financial hit from that entire card, so I know what it's like. And not only that, with cards that expensive, you do have to send them back. They don't just give them to you for free. They let you play around with it for 7 days, and they expect you to unscrew it out of your rig, pack that shit up, and send it back to the engineering house. That's how it works. But generally, I got this card running up and well, and it's finally finished what is the last big piece in this entire super rig that I'm building, this workstation system right now. I think in this entire experience, I've truly learned what this global supply chain crisis really is. Now, you've heard this term constantly thrown around, but the reality of it is this is a term that's basically had a start in 2020, this event, and it's leading all the way up to 2022. In fact, it will probably last all the way up to 2025. For those of you who don't know, because of COVID-19 and the pandemic that we are living in, on the location Earth, thank you Wikipedia, it seems as though that literally trying to purchase anything. In fact, the actual supply chain for not just semiconductors, but many products like timber is actually completely screwed up. Not only is purchasing the product really difficult, but also the logistics of transferring the product from one location to the other incredibly tough as well. When it comes to semiconductors and a lot of these chips that are, that are basically what processors, GPUs, a lot of the stuff that we use, smartphones, a lot of the tablets that we have, a lot of the computers, anything technology related is running on a semiconductor. And the reality here is that there's tons of companies fighting for this stuff right now. You know, in the same world where you have AMD, you also have companies substantially larger like Apple, like Tesla, like NVIDIA even. NVIDIA is substantially larger than AMD. And it's these companies that are constantly warring with one another to have that limited supply of semiconductors that are basically floating around in the supply chain crisis that we have. Trying to basically reach the actual sales numbers, because remember, in this system, in order for these businesses to work, they have to constantly up their sales, okay? They have to constantly turn over higher and higher revenues. When you have a supply chain to deal with, you still want to be able to get as much as you can in this crisis and be able to pump actual products out for people to consume. So it's not really a matter of, hey, there's crypto miners who are hijacking the ability for me, the gamer, to have a card. It's literally, you have very limited supply of the actual raw materials to build these graphic cards, to build these computers. And it's really not even trying to like having a small supply. The fact is consumption has gone up dramatically because people are remoting from home. Imagine for a minute, okay, before the pandemic times, okay, in the before times when people used to, use smartphones and tablets and whatever, it was like, it was normal, it was something where people bought it, they used it. But now, because we're remoting in from home, there's an increase increased demand to have more smartphones, to have more tablets, to have more systems. And because we're so used to remoting from home at this point, I don't actually see this going away even when the pandemic becomes an endemic. You're going to have a lot of people who are going to sit down and constantly keep remoting from home. So the demand right now that exists is going to become normal. In fact, if anything, it'll just become larger and larger. You buy a vehicle right now, you can see the same problem in the supply chain right there. Used cars are going up in price, okay? Because trying to build vehicles with the technology that they now have within them, you know, is getting more difficult. It really is. You know, there's a lot more competition in the supply chain for a lot of these big companies to be competing with each other in order to have that raw product. Now, when it comes to even the crypto miner community, which a big chunk of these GPUs do end up going to crypto miners, you know, people who buy these graphic cards, daisy chain them in an entire group and basically run them overnight just so that they can get crazy hash rates on their mines. These people are also a big, massive issue. Now, to understand, I think the big issue in all of this is that for Nvidia and AMD and a lot of these, a lot of these retailers, a sale is in fact a sale. It doesn't matter if a gamer gets the card. Nvidia does not benefit if somebody just gets a card for gaming. And, you know, in fact, Nvidia benefits as long as those cards get sold. So if a GPU crypto miner gets it or a gamer, I honestly do not believe at the end of the day it matters that much for Nvidia. They could say otherwise, but again, in my viewpoint, a sale is a sale. Now, Nvidia has introduced a lot of blocks for crypto mining. In fact, they called them low hash rate GPUs. But because they were actually so fucking easy to hack, believe it or not, there's software known as T-Rex that allows you, quite literally, to bypass these low hash rates, unlock them, and actually use some of these high-end cards like a 3080 Ti, like a 3070 Ti, like a 3060, the way that crypto miners honestly want it to. Now, that's just Nvidia. As far as I know, AMD cards were harder to obtain because they didn't have, from what I understand, these low hash rate blocks. What's also really wild is companies like Nvidia and AMD, specifically when it comes to AMD, have recently released the Radeon 6500 XT card, which is designed to give you great gaming performance for budget prices. Now, don't get me wrong, this GPU is fine if you are on a budget, but this is objectively worse than GPUs from, I believe, pre-2018 in some cases. I believe there's a good Gamer Nexus video you can watch. This is a $339 GPU. Trying to go to AMD's partners like Memory Express to fucking buy this gives you the out of stock. This is still a grim reality, okay? Even this is getting scalped. Believe it or not, go on eBay right now. $500, $400, $444, $500 for this piece of shit dog water GPU. The scalping is still remaining over here, okay? Because at the end of the day, no matter how many issues and hash rate limiters you put onto these systems, you're never going to bypass. You're never going to win against this scumbag group of people purchasing up GPUs and using it. Honestly, buying a computer graphic card at this point is a near impossibility. It's actually easier if you can find a pre-built somewhere in the market, because they exist, through OEM partners, buying a pre-built and gutting the GPU out of it. In a lot of cases, that may actually end up being more cost efficient, because even if you gut a GPU out of it, you still actually end up getting an entire computer in the process. It's a lot better than trying to look for graphic cards that are consistently out of stock. You know, I used to say, don't buy from a scalper, but at this point, it seems like that's really the new retail. The sneakerheads, the supreme buyers, the fashion industry, the fashion scalpers have decided, let's move into the tech boom, okay? Let's buy these GPUs. Forget PlayStations, graphic cards are where it's at, because people, even normies, okay, even people who don't know about gaming are looking at graphic cards. They hear words like crypto mining, and this is where they jump into. You know, honestly, a sale is a sale for a lot of these companies, and you're never really going to bypass it. What a journey it has been, but hopefully it all culminates next week when I show you the monster workstation that I finally completed. That said, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am